I have Cathal Cregg waiting in the background here. Apologies for keeping you waiting, Cathal. How are you?
Good now. How are you keeping?
You're a happy man this morning, I'd say, waking up on this Easter Monday morning. I can't say the Rossies are back because they were never gone based on their form this year, but fantastic performance yesterday to take down your Connacht rivals Mayo.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I suppose going over to Castlebar, I would have tipped Mayo last week, just based on the form that they had the last couple of weeks. As you said, Roscommon had a very good league, but like Mayo had been very strong going into the game. So yeah, very good win for Roscommon.
Just like Davy Burke has gotten some bounce out of Roscommon. The first 3 league wins almost had Division 1 status secured. Obviously finished off with a win as well. He kind of intimated yesterday that he tinkered with his defensive system after the first 3 games, maybe with a view to playing Mayo and so that they wouldn't see them. They wouldn't see what they were going to do. It kind of like their defensive structure yesterday was so solid. They were top class. It just didn't allow Mayo any space, maybe outside of that Cohen goal chance. Remember Aidan O'Shea going through, and there's just bodies converging everywhere. From a Roscommon point of view and a Roscommon supporter now that you are, that must have been a joy to watch.
Yeah, it was very good. I think look at a lot of the what yesterday was just down to desire. Like as you said, like their work rate and their tackling was unbelievable yesterday. We didn't even see that in the league, in some of the games, and I think they'll be very, very happy with that. Another thing there yesterday was around, I would have thought going over, Mayo started all the league games really well. Roscommon actually in most of their games, even the ones they won, they would have started quite poorly. And like it was definitely a tactic that Roscommon employed yesterday. They just seemed to just take the ball and keep the ball for a long, long period of time, and it'll never let Mayo get into the game at all. And then anytime Mayo got the ball, they just their work rate, as I said, and their tackling was very disciplined as well, I thought.
Yeah, and it has been under Davy, in fairness, really, really disciplined. I think the Rhino Donoghue have one free for a long stage. Like they just didn't cough up scoring chances. I know Davy Burke always talks about 75% of the scoring chances coming from in or around the D or inside, and they kind of denied Mayo so many chances in around there. As you say, real well disciplined defending. Obviously,
and that's probably one of the areas that Roscommon over the last maybe 5 or 10 years have been maybe poorer in, that they've conceded a lot of goals, particularly against better teams throughout the league. And yesterday, Mayo only scored 10 points yesterday. Roscommon, I think, throughout the league only conceded 3 goals. Mayo would have conceded 7, I think. So defensively they definitely have improved, but they are playing a more defensive game and a more possession based game.
It's when you come up again, like Roscommon have probably suffered, and even in your own day, some maybe heavy enough defeats in Croke Park games, shall we say. They look like they're set up to be a lot more compact, a lot tighter, maybe less exposed when it comes to those type of games. I know the lads on the Sunday game last night were wondering, how would they cope in Croke Park when it's more of a kicking game, but they definitely look a lot more compact and a lot harder to break down.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose back a number of years ago, we were playing, we were scoring a lot more. We were probably scoring, 17, 20 points or scores in all games. But there was teams scoring 4 or 5 goals against us, which was nearly a waste of time then, So we're scoring less, but we're definitely conceding less. And look at when you're not conceding goals and maybe getting 1 or 2. Roscommon scored a decent amount of goals all through the year. You're in with a chance,
You've probably seen the Dubs do it, and you've probably been on the field when the Dubs were doing it and they're holding on to the ball. How satisfying is that to see it when Roscommon were so good at holding on to the ball, so killing the game at different stages? To see them being almost so comfortable in that kind of skin must have been a delight to see. Because usually if the opposition team are doing it, you're kind of sickened and you just want the lad to press up and try and take the ball back. But when it's your own county doing it, I'd imagine it's pretty enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it was nervy enough now at times. It is sort of edge of the seat stuff at the same time. They're playing it a lot. They're obviously playing the extra player as being the keeper, and coming out a wet day like yesterday. It's not easy to play that, and they probably lived on the edges once or twice in terms of they got turned over and they could have got a goal, but look at it, it worked out. And as I said, it was a brilliant win, and not many would have expected it.
Davey kind of said that he thought there was maybe a bit of disrespect shown to Roscommon. They obviously finished third in the league, technically, the third best team throughout the spring. Did you get that, or was it just a case of Mayo had another game, they won a league final, there was lots of hoopla around it, that they were always going to be kind of, not heavy favourites, but that they're always going to be the team that had a lot of focus on them coming into the game? Did you feel any element of Roscommon being disrespected going into the game?
No, I wouldn't have, because I would have met, lots of Mayo people during the week, and they would have, given Roscommon a good chance going into the game. I don't think any of them expected to go down and hammer Roscommon or anything like that. The league, I'm not sure the league form were fully representative of where Everton was at as well. Like, Mayo finished first, Roscommon finished third. So, the game in the Hyde as well, Roscommon nearly pipped that as well, the one in the league game. Mayo on that day, there was 3 or 4 stages throughout that game where they could have kicked on and maybe bet Roscommon by 6 or 7 or 8 points, but they just probably weren't able to get away from them. And I think that has been a theme in all Roscommon's games throughout the league, is that they've never let any team kind of, I suppose, get away from them, even when they haven't been playing well in some of them games. They've always stuck in, like down in Kerry and that Mayo game. They're probably the two that come to mind most. Mayo and Kerry dominated them, but they were still within, like, coming to the last play of the game, they had 2 goal chances in both them games to get something out of the game.
Yeah. Have you heard much anecdotally, Cathal, about what Davy Burke has brought to the table? And obviously Mark McHugh's in there as coach as well. He's a very passionate guy, Davy, but he really knows his football. He had a show on our channel last year with him and Enda Vardy. Real passionate football man, like eats and sleeps it. He'd be watching every bit he could possibly get his hands on. Have you heard much about what he's bringing to the table? Obviously, apart from that organisation that we talked about.
No, actually, to be honest, round it's very quiet. There's very little sound bites coming out. Like, obviously, it's very positive among the supporters and all that. Like, to get 8 points in Division 1 league and get a first win against Mayo in his first game as championship. That's probably the best year so far that Roscommon have had. In the last 20, 30 years, realistically, because even back in 2019 when we won it, we were probably unlucky to get relegated on the last day, but we did end up getting relegated, I think, about 5, 6 points. To get 8 points in Division 1, you have to be very competitive in a lot of games, and then to go down to Castlebar and win against a good Mayo team, it's fair going,
What is it about the idea of Mayo winning the league that you just love beating them anytime they win the league?
I know. I only seen that stat there during the week. It's a mad one. I don't know. It's and it's the last twice has been down there. I don't know. Maybe at them times, the couple of times they won at Roscommon have been, I suppose, stronger maybe than the other years. But look, I think probably for Mayo as well going into the game yesterday, I think the preparation was difficult. Like, there's no doubt about it. They had only the 7-day turnaround. I was doing a bit there yesterday before the game, and like, realistically, they probably had 1 or 2 sessions maximum to prepare for the game, whereas Roscommon had 3 weeks, because they were more or less safe after the Kerry game, and they had the Donegal game in between, but it didn't matter really. That was a dead rubber game basically for both teams, and Roscommon had to go to 3 weeks, which is probably 9 or 10 weeks. You can do weekend sessions and everything there. So they had probably 9 or 10 sessions prepared for that game and get really up for it. And Mayo, after winning, no matter how much you try and quell that, like, it is hard to get down from that, and you're listening to a lot of media stuff, and then there's the build up for the game and that. So it's that was definitely a tough one on Mayo for the game yesterday.
Yeah, I don't enjoy the structure of that at all. I think you should be able to celebrate a success. I think it's a bit mad that they come out and play a big game again a week later. And even from a Roscommon point of view, the Roscommon were getting another look at Mayo. Do you know what I mean? Getting another look at what way they were playing and that type of thing. It sets up a fairly juicy semi-final against Galway by all accounts.
Yeah, that'll be a cracking game, and I think Galway are building up nicely. They showed spells of it last weekend against Galway, and you know, there have a few players to come back into that. You know, McDade, you know, Shane Walsh is only sort of starting to get going again. I would say he's not near his max, because he was with Kilmacud and then he was away for a period of time. But you know, I think give him another couple of weeks, he'll be very strong. Comer's obviously just coming back. Another couple of weeks will make a big difference for him. Obviously Johnny Heaney went off at that time, so I think when they get them few players back in, you know, they finished second in the league. They played well, and there's been very little talk about them. They're probably, I actually probably fancy them maybe to go on and win the All Ireland. I think they're very strong, and I just like the way they're going about things. But look, at saying that, no more than yesterday's game. Anytime Roscommon and Galway have played over the last 8 or 9 years, I'd say it's probably 50-50 in terms of the results. It's nearly every second year they beat each other. That's kind of the way it has been. So it's it'll be very tight.
You've done a good job of building them up anyway. I'm just going to bring in Declan Bogue here from the 42, who was there covering the game actually yesterday. Declan, how are you getting on?
Very good. Michael,
how are you doing?
Just a quick deck from a Mayo point of view. Where to now for Mayo? Like, it's mad to say that you know, defeating the Connacht Championship might nearly be a blessing in disguise as regards their preparation now going into the All Ireland Championship. It's kind of mad to say that, but that's kind of the facts of the matter.
Well, you know, Cathal, he'll know exactly what we're talking about here. I just think, like, if you detach yourself from, and like, this is not something that the players talk about or what the management would even want, but Mayo, whether they like it or not, are a soap opera. And following them as a soap opera and everything about them is just ramped up to the nth degree. And 6 weeks, possibly 7, depending on the way the draw works out, I think it's the best place for them, because they're out of the national glare. They're able to do what they want. They can actually take a down week now, even 10 days off completely, which might be the best possible thing. I was just leaving the stadium yesterday and noticed Killian O'Connor leaving, and he was leaving on his own in a pair of recovery trousers, and that isn't the sort of look of a man who is heading for skinful. It looks like a man who's maybe focused on things further down the road. But I actually, you know, look at, it's the brand new world. It's the new championship that we have. Someone was going to get this big break, and nobody kind of maybe, I suppose, of course, Roscommon went in absolutely level pagans there yesterday, but nobody kind of expected that Mayo might have been the team to fall, or the first team to think, well, what are we going to do with ourselves for the summer? I think it's going to be a better thing for them.
Yeah, it could be in a roundabout way. Cregg there, he's not. I thought he might be under the weather this morning. They might be enjoying it, but they're obviously focused on the semi-final deck. Just a couple of other quick bits and pieces from Castlebar. Any other bits of takeaways from it? By all accounts, Kevin McStay wasn't, you know, completely downbeat in the aftermath either. I have to say he's a breath of fresh air as regards media dealings, and even just his general demeanour and attitude towards the media is refreshing. But they were in a difficult spot, as Cathal said, playing a week after a league final. I still think there's a big run in them, and I think they'll have a big say in where Sam Maguire goes at the end of the year.
It's, well, number one about Kevin is you can't spend that long in the media, and by that in the media, like, I mean, even going back to his Sunday game punditry career, like, he was writing columns for, obviously his Irish Times columns have been very well received, but like before that, even the stuff that he had in the Mayo News, like, he had just years and years of columns in the Mayo News, and I used to keep an eye out for them every week because they're so well written, so well thought out, and like everything, he's got an engineering and an army background. So I mean, it's Benny O'Brien, one of the selectors with St. Bridget, said to me last week, everything is noughts or ones. It's either 0 or 1, and it can't be one or the other, and you can rationalize. So with him is you don't spend that long dealing with the media, working in the media, without then developing some kind of respect for what the role is. And then stripping away the paranoia, knowing what is actually applicable, what works, what doesn't work here. Mayo weren't exactly hugely in the media in the run-up to the game. I don't think that's a big thing anymore. I actually think that other teams are media outlets in general aren't even looking for the big sit-down with a star player because it doesn't happen. Davy Burke was, though. You'll notice that, like, Davy Burke was speaking to Michael Foley in the Sunday Times Sunday morning. The fact Roscommon it didn't do any damage. But apart from that, yes, his general demeanour, he's a positive fella anyway, right? We know that he doesn't do tragicomedy or anything like that, and he's bound to put a positive spin on it straight away. I mean, that's his job there. He is there. He'll not get carried away. He'll not he'll not want to dial up the drama in Mayo because he knows that that's something that they've been trapped in a cycle of for many years. And I don't know. I just think it suits him. I forgive me for if I'm completely wrong, and people will say momentum, blah blah blah, all that. I just think now that they have a glorious opportunity to go away and be very honest with themselves and do whatever work they want to. They will be coming back into that round robin series, absolutely leaping out of their skin and mad for football, and not having had that high and low emotional roller coaster of even meeting Galway. Could you imagine now Mayo's like already, like the feeling they had coming back down the road in a bus? You know yourself, you can be hoteled and bust out of it like in the middle of a season, and this is one season that is going to happen to a lot of teams. Is traveling to and from games and all that. They don't need that. They can take themselves away out of it. It'll be a nice wee seed. Not quite sure where exactly they fit into the seeds, but they'll get through it. They'll not be the fourth team to be knocked out in their group. So it's fallen kind of in their favour in the same way as I actually think the Dublin are All Ireland favourites for a very different reason. Is they'll have a nice run and they have loads of games, but they'll have loads of games to bed in. The Jack McCaffrey, Paul Mannion, Conor Callahan, get that whole teamwork going again with them. And of course, as we found out last week, they've got the wonderful advantage of playing 2 of their 3 games at home in Croke Park.
Good man. I was actually chatting to John Kiley after the league final yesterday, and the question was thrown to him. Does any party you think like that maybe you're going too well too soon, or winning the league, is that a disadvantage? And I think Kevin McStay is the same. I don't think you think about those things. I don't think McStay would have thought about, oh, it's okay if we lose. They would have been going gung-ho to win yesterday. And now this is the scenario that they're in. It's plan B almost. But we've seen Mayo been able to go through plan A, B, C, D, E the whole way through the qualifiers in recent years. Like in 17, I think, when they produced probably their best ever All-Ireland final performance, that 117 to 116 game. Like, I think Derry nearly beat them along the way. Clare give them trouble, I think, along the way. So they know, and this is going to be the most attritional All-Ireland Football Championship of all time, would be fair to say. We don't know what's around the corner, only a hell of a lot of games, and there is going to be some amount of games to win All-Ireland just from the All-Ireland stages onwards, let alone winning your provincial.
Well, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's, Jesus, like I was thinking there coming home yesterday, like imagine that was do or die, and that was the end of Mayo all summer, like, and that was a cruel thing. And it got more and more cruel because it was especially hard for the teams that were routinely cannon fodder of such as my own county, like Fermanagh, that really you'd see people gathering up, and with such a ridiculous system, like of a league game in October. Like, I mean, remember Kerry playing Louth and getting beat by Louth in what was it? Was it 13 days or something after the All-Ireland final replay in 2000?
Oh, yeah.
Like, asking boys, can you come out and play for Kerry again on a Saturday night? Or it was a Sunday against Louth.
You do well to get them to play the goal challenge match 3 or 4 days after while they're still hanging from Porter.
Well, that's it. But that was then training started, and you're going from September right the way through, and you get to May, and you get your 1 day out and hammer out the gate or beat out the gate, and not knowing how can we do to improve, because you're never getting enough games. And then the National League was a mess because it was all a hodgepodge anyway, and there was nothing based on merit back then either. Look, people. The moment that we start talking about structures in the GA, Michael, is the moment that people start clicking the red button and say, not for me, no thank you. They're just sick of structures. But I think just to touch on it briefly, I think we have actually we have landed on a good enough system of going, and it'll be very interesting to see how these wee Super Fours play out over the year. And I don't think it will diminish the provincial championships anytime soon.
Yeah, and it's funny because the likes of Roscommon in particular, they'll still be going gung-ho to try and win a provincial championship, as will all the teams up in Ulster. And just